So in the last video, we have discussed the actions of the muscarinic agonist drug, and in today's class, we are going to discuss about uh, the cholinergic direct acting muscarinic agonist drugs. So direct acting muscarinic agonist drug, what does that mean? What do you mean by direct acting muscarinic agonist drug? Now, first, what are the muscarinic agonist drug? Muscarinic agonist drug are those drugs which goes and bind and stimulate muscarinic receptors primarily, and they are known as the muscarinic agonist drug because they go and they bind and stimulate primarily the muscarinic receptors and produces the action. These are known as the muscarinic agonist drug. Now these muscarinic agonist drug, they are further divided into two types. The muscarinic agonist drugs are further divided into two types. One is known as the direct acting muscarinic agonist drug, and the other one is known as the indirect acting muscarinic agonist drugs. Now, what is the difference between these two muscarinic agonist drugs? Those drugs are being called as a direct acting muscarinic agonist drug. Those whose structures resemble with an acetylcholine, and these drugs directly go and stimulate the muscarinic receptors and produces action. What I've said. What are direct acting muscarinic agonist drugs? These drugs resemble with the structure of acetylcholine. They are the analogs of the acetylcholine, and they directly go bind and stimulate the muscarinic receptor. So they are known as a direct acting muscarinic agonist drug. And what are indirect acting muscarinic agonist drugs? Those drugs, when you take these drugs, they go and you know that the acetylcholine is also degraded by the enzymes. When the cholinergic neurons releases acetylcholine in the synaptic area, there are some enzymes which are present in the synaptic area. These enzymes are known as the acetylcholinesterases. These acetylcholinesterases are the enzymes which degraded the acetylcholine once the acetylcholine produces the action on the receptors. Do you know that acetylcholinesterase enzymes, when the cholinergic neurons releases the acetylcholine in the synaptic area, as soon as the acetylcholine start producing the action, so as soon as acetylcholine start producing the action on the organ, it is also simultaneously degraded by the enzymes which are present in the synaptic area. These enzymes are known as the acetylcholinesterase enzyme, right? Which degrades the acetylcholine, right? So these enzymes are known as the acetylcholinesterase enzyme. Now, I would like to tell you some about the acetylcholinesterase enzyme. Now, there are two types of acetylcholinesterase enzymes. There are two types of acetylcholinesterase enzyme. One type is known as the acetylcholinesterase enzyme, which is present in the synaptic area, right? Which is present in the synaptic area. There is also another type of acetylcholinesterase which is present in your blood, in the plasma. That type of acetylcholinesterase enzyme is known as the butyrylcholinesterase enzyme. Butyrylcholinesterase enzyme. So the enzyme which is degrading the acetylcholine in the synaptic area, that one is known as the acetylcholinesterase enzyme. And the enzyme which is present in the blood and degrades the acetylcholine, if the acetylcholine comes into the blood and it is degraded by an enzyme, that enzyme is known as the butyrylcholinesterase enzyme, right? This is the number one point. Acetylcholinesterase enzyme is also known as the true cholinesterase enzyme, whereas the butyrylcholinesterase enzyme, which is present in the blood to degrade acetylcholine, that one is known as the pseudocholinesterase enzyme. Pseudo, P-S-E-D-U-O, pseudo, right? Acetylcholine, third number point, acetylcholinesterase enzyme is also known as the specific cholinesterase enzyme, and butyrylcholinesterase enzyme is known as the non-specific cholinesterase enzyme, right? So these are the different name for the same thing, right? So what are two types of enzymes which are present to degrade the acetylcholine? The enzyme which is degrading the acetylcholine in the synaptic area and in the tissues, that one is known as the acetylcholinesterase enzyme. And there is also an enzyme which is present in the blood which can degrade the acetylcholine. If the acetylcholine comes in the blood, that acetylcholine in the blood is degraded by the butyrylcholinesterase enzyme. The acetylcholine which comes in the blood, that is not degraded by acetylcholinesterase enzyme because it is absent in the blood. So the acetylcholine in the blood is degraded by an enzyme which is known as the butyrylcholinesterase enzyme, right? So acetylcholinesterase is known as the true cholinesterase. Butyrylcholinesterase is known as the pseudocholinesterase. And acetylcholinesterase is also known as the specific cholinesterase, and butyrylcholinesterase is known as the non-specific cholinesterase, right? Why butyrylcholinesterase enzyme is known as a pseudo? Because scientists has classified acetylcholinesterase enzyme as the true cholinesterase enzyme, because these are the enzymes which are present in the synaptic area, and because at the synaptic area the cholinergic neurons are there and they release acetylcholine, but in the blood there is no any mechanism by which the acetylcholine is produced by the blood. So therefore the scientists have said that in the blood the acetylcholine is not produced, but the nature has given the enzyme over there to degrade acetylcholine. So they have given the enzyme which is present in the blood to degrade the acetylcholine as a pseudocholinesterase, because acetylcholine is not naturally produced in the blood. In the blood, it comes from the synaptic area. Or if you take any drug which is the structurally analog to the acetylcholine, so it is degraded by the enzyme which is present in the blood. So therefore, the scientists have given uh, that enzyme name as a pseudocholinesterase enzyme, just because it is not producing over there. This is the reason they have given the name of that enzyme as a pseudo, right? If you have asked me that thing, but it's not of significant thing, right? देन यहाँ तक बात बेटा क्लियर है, आप लोगों को समझ आ गई बात कि दो किस्म के ये चीजें? तो so the direct acting are those drugs which are structural analogs to acetylcholine. They go and bind and stimulate the muscarinic receptor, so therefore they are known as the direct acting muscarinic agonist drug. And what are the indirect acting? Indirect acting are those drugs which go, they are not, indirect acting drugs are those drugs which are not structurally analogs of the acetylcholine. Instead, they go and they inhibit the enzymes, the which enzymes acetylcholine traces, right? And they inhibit these enzymes which degraded the acetylcholine, right? These inhibit the enzymes which break down the acetylcholine. So when they inhibit these enzymes which break down the acetylcholine, so the acetylcholine uh, will be less breakdown of the breakdown of the acetylcholine will be less. Because of that, more amount of acetylcholine will remain in the synaptic area, and therefore more amount of acetylcholine will be able to bind with the receptors, and so therefore more action will be observed. So they are indirectly increasing the action of the acetylcholine in our body by inhibiting the acetylcholinesterase enzymes which breaks down the acetylcholine. So therefore we say these type of drugs as the indirect acting muscarinic agonist drug, because acetylcholine also bind with the muscarinic receptors, right class? Is that clear? So these are the direct acting and the indirect acting. So in today's class, we are going to discuss about the direct acting muscarinic and direct acting muscarinic agonist drugs. These are the drugs which are structural analogs to the acetylcholine. Their structure resembles uh, with with the acetylcholine, and these drugs directly go bind and stimulate the muscarinic receptors and produces action. And what kind of actions we have discussed in the previous video, in the previous class, that what are the actions which you can see by stimulating the muscarinic receptors on the different organs. Right. So now I am discussing only about the muscarinic, a direct acting muscarinic agonist drug. Now the direct acting muscarinic agonist drug. Now I will only say now to denote the direct acting muscarinic agonist drug, right? But I am only talking about the direct acting. So the direct acting muscarinic agonist drugs are further divided into two types. One is known as the one category of uh, one category of drug is known as the choline esters, right? Choline ester means, if you look at the structure of the acetylcholine, the acetylcholine structure is acetylcholine structure is the ester of choline, right? So choline ester means that these drugs these drugs resemble with the structure of acetylcholine. So therefore, you categorize these drugs in the heading of under the heading of the choline esters, because these drugs structure resembles with the structure of the acetylcholine. So therefore, you are categorizing these drugs under the category of the choline esters, right? And the other class in the direct acting muscarinic agonist drug is of the alkaloids. These are the drugs like the muscarine, pilocarpine, ericoline. These are the drugs which you obtained from the plant alkaloids, and these drugs do not resemble with the structure of the acetylcholine, right? But they are they are the analogs of the acetylcholine. So therefore, they directly go and bind and stimulate the muscarinic receptor, but they do not resemble much with the structure of the acetylcholine. But they do have the property of same like the acetylcholine, but they obtained from the plant and the alkaloids. And if and these choline esters are the resemble with the structure of the acetylcholine. And what are the drugs which fall under that category? Acetylcholine, acetylcholine itself is the choline ester, and the other drug in this class is the methacholine, right? And carbachol and bithanicol. So acetylcholine, methacholine, carbachol, and bithanicol, these are the choline ester. Their structure resemble with the structure of the acetylcholine, and they are the direct acting muscarinic agonist drug. If you take these drugs, they go and directly bind and stimulate the muscarinic receptors. And the alkaloids, in the alkaloids, we have muscarine, pilocarpine, and ericoline. They also bind and stimulate directly the muscarinic receptor and produces action. So the choline esters and the alkaloids. Now we will look one by one each drug, and what are the indications for these drugs, what they are used for, and what are the contraindication. Before telling you the side effects, because you can understand the side effects by understanding the receptors mechanism and the actions, and before telling you the side effects, it is first better to tell the contraindication of these drugs also. You know, contraindication means the condition at which you will not give the drug to the any patient. Contraindicated, it means that. Now we will look these drugs one by one. So number one drug which we have seen is the acetylcholine, right? Acetylcholine is itself a choline ester, and acetylcholine is naturally produced in your body, and this is a neurotransmitter which is naturally produced in your body, and it is it binds to it binds non-specifically to the muscarinic receptors and also to the nicotinic receptors. The acetylcholine do not differentiate between the muscarinic and the nicotinic because it binds both receptors with both receptors. Remember class? You know that thing, na? Because acetylcholine is naturally produced in your blood, so it binds to the muscarinic receptors and also with the nicotinic receptor non-specifically. But you know one thing, I've written down the drug acetylcholine, but acetylcholine, you know, acetylcholine is not used clinically. We cannot use acetylcholine clinically. Acetylcholine is not available in the market to use it. Why? Why we do not use acetylcholine as a drug? Even acetylcholine is produced naturally in our body and produces the action, but we cannot use acetylcholine as a drug. I will tell you the reason why. Because number one thing, because acetylcholine, if I will give, if you give acetylcholine to any patient, what will happen? That acetylcholine, if you give that acetylcholine will go into the blood. That acetylcholine will be rapidly degraded by the cholinesterase enzymes, which is present in the blood, right? And also, if that acetylcholine will able to pass to the extracellular fluid, where the another enzyme is present over there to degrade acetylcholine, so the acetylcholine will be degraded. It is degraded by the enzymes in the blood and also in the extracellular space. So it is destroyed in seconds. So it has a very short half-life, about 5 to 30 seconds. If you give acetylcholine, it will be rapidly degraded in 5 to 30 seconds. So acetylcholine will not be able to produce any action. So it is of no use to give that drug, because you can't give the drug again and again in 5 and after every 10 seconds. It is not possible. So therefore, we do not give acetylcholine because it is rapidly degraded. Secondly, if अगर आपने जिद पकड़ ही ली है कि if you want to give the acetylcholine to a patient, then number second problem is that if you give the acetylcholine, that acetylcholine can bind to the nicotinic receptor and also with the muscarinic receptor. And you know where are the nicotinic receptors present? Nicotinic receptors are present in the ganglia. Nicotinic receptors are present in the skeletal neuromuscular junctions. Nicotinic receptors are present in the adrenal medulla. Nicotinic receptors, there's the nicotinic receptor are present. Then comes to the muscarinic receptor. Acetylcholine will also bind with the muscarinic receptors. And you know where are the muscarinic receptors? So if acetylcholine is binding with the nicotinic receptor, is also binding with the muscarinic receptor. So you can imagine how many, if a single drug is binding with so many receptors in the body, so you can imagine a single drug can cause many side effects, because we aim to we aim that we aim to target a drug. It is better that the drug is binding with some selective receptors, because if the drug is binding with selective receptors, then the side effects are lower. But if the drug is binding with many receptors, the side effect profile becomes higher, right? So if the acetylcholine is binding with the nicotinic receptor, the muscarinic receptor, so many actions, many diffuse actions will be produced by the acetylcholine. So many side effects will be produced, and you can imagine that thing. So by taking the acetylcholine, the person can develop a lot of secretions, uh, increase sweat, increase saliva, increase mucus secretion, defecation, urination, muscle cramps, right? So lot of side effects if you give the acetylcholine. So therefore, because of these reasons, we do not give acetylcholine to a patient as a drug. Therefore, it is not used clinically. Number one, it has a short half-life. It is degraded by the enzymes in the blood and in the extracellular space, and also it is produced. It's non-specifically bind to the nicotinic and the muscarinic, and therefore because of that reason diffuse action occurs and a lot of side effects. देखिए नॉरएपिनेफ्रिन नॉन सेलेक्टिव बाइंड होता है एडिनर्जिक रिसेप्टर पर, वो तो ड्रग फॉर्म में अवेलेबल है। देखिए नॉरएपिनेफ्रिन जो है वो आपका बीटा 1, अल्फा 1 और अल्फा 2 ये 3 रिसेप्टर्स हैं, ठीक है जी। इन 3 रिसेप्टर्स में आपका बाइंड होता है, और इन 3 रिसेप्टर्स की बाइंड होने की वजह से जो इनका साइड इफेक्ट प्रोफाइल है वो फिर भी कंपैरेटिवली बहुत ही कम है एज कम्पेयर टू द निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर्स। क्योंकि आपको कोई भी ड्रग ऐसी मार्केट में नजर नहीं आएगी कि जो निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर एगोनिस्ट ड्रग आप यूज कर रहे हो, क्योंकि निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर को अगर आप स्टिमुलेट करेंगे, ऐसी ड्रग है नहीं मार्केट में, है ऐसी मैं आपको पढ़ाऊंगा भी, लेकिन उनकी साइड इफेक्ट प्रोफाइल बहुत ज्यादा है। निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर, अब आप ये कहें कि सारे रिसेप्टर एक जैसी हैं, उनकी सिग्निफिकेंस एक जैसी है, ऐसा भी नहीं हो सकता, क्योंकि कुछ रिसेप्टर को स्टिमुलेट करेंगे साइड इफेक्ट कम है, कुछ रिसेप्टर को स्टिमुलेट करेंगे उनकी साइड इफेक्ट प्रोफाइल ज्यादा है। तो निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर को अगर आप स्टिमुलेट करेंगे तो बॉडी में जो है उसकी निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर्स की जो प्रॉपर्टीज हैं वो डिफरेंट है एज कम्पेयर टू द एडर्जिक रिसेप्टर्स। उनको जब आप स्टिमुलेट करते हैं तो वो न्यूरॉन्स पे भी वो मौजूद होते हैं, गैंग्लिया में भी मौजूद होते हैं, लेकिन आपके जो नॉरएपिनेफ्रिन के जो बीटा 1 जो हैं या अल्फा 1 जो है वो न्यूरॉन्स के लेवल पे मौजूद नहीं होते हैं। तो इनकी प्लेसेस की सिग्निफिकेंस भी डिटरमिन करती है साइड इफेक्ट प्रोफाइल को। तो निकोटिनिक की जो प्रेजेंस है गैंग्लिया में और इन जगहों पे, इसकी वजह से जो साइड इफेक्ट प्रोफाइल है वो बहुत हाई हो जाती है एज कम्पेयर टू दीज एडरेनर्जिक रिसेप्टर व्हिच वी हैव डिस्कस्ड। Acetylcholine itself does not have therapeutic. Yeah, exactly. Acetylcholine doesn't have any therapeutic value as a drug. Right class, आगे चलें फिर हम। What is meant by the diffuse action? Diffuse action का मतलब यही होता है कि एक साथ बहुत सारे एक्शन आना। जब एक ड्रग बहुत सारे रिसेप्टर्स पे बाइंड करती है तो हर रिसेप्टर अपना एक एक्शन देता है। तो इतने सारी जगहों पे जब निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर्स मौजूद होंगे, मस्कुलिनिक रिसेप्टर्स भी होंगे, तो बहुत सारे जब एक्शन एक साथ आपको मिलेंगे तो इसलिए उनको कहते हैं डिफ्यूज एक्शन। राइट क्लास, आगे चलें। आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट क्लास? चलें जी आगे चलते हैं। ये अगर लिंक खत्म हो जाए तो नेक्स्ट लिंक पे आ जाइएगा, वो भी शेयर किया हुआ है, क्योंकि मुझे नहीं लग रहा है कि एक मीटिंग में ये कंप्लीट होगा, क्योंकि आज ये टेस्ट कंप्लीट करनी है मुझे। Acha, now the drug comes which is known as the bithanicol. Bithanicol. Acetylcholine is not used clinically. Bithanicol, right? Bithanicol is a drug which is fall under the category of the choline ester, right? And bithanicol. Now, bithanicol is a direct-acting muscarinic agonist drug, right? And what we have what we have done with an acetylcholine, so we have gotten the bithanicol. Bithanicol is a structural bithanicol resembles with the structure of the acetylcholine, but we have to do some modification with acetylcholine so that we able to use the bithanicol. So in the bithanicol, we have replaced the acetate of the acetylcholine with the carbamate. Are you getting my point, class? In the acetylcholine, if you look at the structure of the acetylcholine is made up, acetylcholine has acetate and the choline, right? Acetylcholine has acetate and choline. But in the bithanicol, instead of acetate, we have carbamate, C-A-R-B-A-M-A-T-E. Instead of acetate in bithanicol, we have carbamate and choline, right? And the bithanicol is made up of carbamate and choline. And acetylcholine is made up of acetate and choline. So in acetylcholine, we have replaced acetate with the carbamate, and what we get the bithanicol. So because of that, by replacing the acetate of the acetylcholine with the carbamate, the bithanicol is not be degraded by the acetylcholinesterase enzymes and the butyl cholinesterase enzyme quickly. So therefore, bithanicol has a longer half-life as compared to the acetylcholine. Are you getting my point, class? Acetylcholine जो है वो एसिटेट और कोलिन से बना होता है. बिथेनिकॉल में हम क्या करते हैं कि बिथेनिकॉल में हम उस एसिटेट को हम रिप्लेस कर देते हैं कार्बामेट से. उसका फायदा क्या होता है कि एसिटाइलकोलिन लेने से जो वो डिग्रेड हो रहा था फौरन जल्दी से एसिटाइलकोलिनेस्टेज एंजाइम की वजह से, बिथेनिकॉल में वो कार्बामेट होने की वजह से वो एसिटाइलकोलिनेस्टेज से डिग्रेड नहीं होता जल्दी, इसलिए बिथेनिकॉल की हाफ लाइफ भी जो है वो आपकी इंक्रीज हो जाती है. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर एसिटाइलकोलिन की हाफ लाइफ जो थी वो 20 सेकेंड्स थी, so the bithanicol half life increases to 1 hour, right? So because of that we can use the bithanicol, because it is now, because we have replaced acetate of the acetylcholine with the carbamate, so now the bithanicol is not quickly degraded by the acetylcholinesterase enzymes, so we are able to use the bithanicol, right? This is the number one point. Number second, the bithanicol binds selectively to the muscarinic receptor. How? Because in the structure of bithanicol, we have also added the methylation. We have also added the methyl group. So by adding the methyl group in the bithanicol, we are selectively binding, we are making the drug selectively to the muscarinic receptor because of that methylation. Because of adding the addition of the methyl group, the drugs bind selectively with the muscarinic receptor, so it is not binding with the nicotinic receptor. So the two problems which are coming with the acetylcholine, we have cut down that problem with the bithanicol. How? Number one, we have replaced the acetate with the carbamate, and second, we also added the methyl group in the bithanicol. Because of that, it is selective to the muscarinic receptor now, and it is not rapidly degraded by the acetylcholinesterases in the blood, in the body. Right, class? Clear a bit about? So the bithanicol binds selectively with the muscarinic receptors. Right, this is the number one thing. Now, what are the indications in which we use the bothanicol? What are the indications in which we use the bothanicol? Now remember with the sentence that Beth activates the bowels and the bladder. Beth activates the bowels and bladder. Bowels means the GIT and bladder means the bladder, right? So what Bothanicol is doing? Bothanicol Beth, BETH. That is the you are remembering the indication of the Bothanicol with this sentence. Beth activates the bowel and bladder. It means that the Bothanicol is activating the GIT and the bladder. And we have discussed previously in the last meeting that that the muscarinic agonist drugs, they increases the movement of they increases the GIT contractions, and also they contract the bladder. We have discussed in the previous meeting, right? So therefore it is activating the bowels and the bladder. Keep that thing in the mind. So what are the indications in which we use the Bothanicol? Bothanicol is used in the post-op. Bothanicol is used in post-operative urinary retention. The patients who underwent the operation, after their operation, some patients they are unable to pass out the urine, right? Because after the operation, their bladder becomes atonic, right? It is unable to contract properly. So in that patients, after their operation, we give the Bothanicol to these patients, and the Bothanicol goes and bind and stimulate the muscarinic receptor on the bladder and contract the detrusor muscles on the bladder wall. And you can know after contraction of the bladder detrusor muscles, the patient can able to pass out the urine. Otherwise, if they were unable to pass out the urine will stay in the bladder for longer period of time. So there are more chances for the urinary tract infection, right? So so the doctors consider that instead of passing out the catheter, it's better to give the Bothanicol to these patients, which will stimulate the bladder and the patient can pass out the urine. So it can be used in patients with the post-operative urinary retention patients, and also in those ladies after the postpartum after the pregnancy, after the postpartum, there are also the urinary retention can occur. So, so into both of these conditions, after the post-operation, after the post-operative and the postpartum urinary retention, the Bothanicol can be given just to contract the bladder wall, so the urine can be passed out from the body, right? So, Beth activates the bowel and the bladder. Then the another indication of the Bothanicol is that the Bothanicol is given in the patient in the patient of the patients who have the megacolon. The Bothanicol is used in the patients who have a megacolon. Now, the megacolon is a condition in which the in which the intestines, in which the large and the small intestines are unable to undergo the peristalsis. There is a the the intestines are unable to contract properly, right? There are many reasons for that, because the intestines are unable to contract properly, so the food is not able to move in the intestines. So the food will stay in the intestine, and because the intestines are not contracting properly, so the food will stay in the intestine, and because of that, the large intestine becomes very large, right? And we call that condition as the megacolon. So in that patient, what is the ideal thing to do? I think it's better that we give anything which stimulate these intestines, which contract these intestines, and so that the food should travel in these intestines, and we get rid of these megacolon. So the bethanical is used in those patients who are suffering from the megacolon. Right, class? Are you getting my point? Megacolon क्या होता है? The reason why the person develop megacolon, there are many reasons. Those patients who are bedridden, they can develop the megacolon because they are not walking. They are not walking. They are bedridden, so the intestines do not function properly. They do not contract properly, so the food stays in the intestine for a longer period of time, and they stuck over there, results in the megacolon. So it's better to give the bethanical. It will contract the intestine, so the food will travel, right? So it is given in the case of the megacolon. Number second, there is a condition I would like to tell you, that condition, and there are some terms which you must know. One is known as the post-operative. The bethanical is also given in the case of the post-operative adynamic ileus. Do you know what do you mean by ileus? ILEUS. Ileus. Ileus means, what do you mean by ileus? बेटा less than 1 minute and next meeting में आ जाइएगा. Can you tell me what do you mean by ileus? Class सो गए सब? No बेटे, ileus means paralysis of the intestine. Paralysis. Ileus means the paralysis of the GIT. It does not. So paralysis of the GIT is known as the ileus, right? So why? So you can imagine why there is a paralysis of the ileus, because the intestines are not able to contract. So the opposite of the contraction is the paralysis. So it can given in the patient with the post-operative. After the operation, the patient can also develop the